Hi guys, I'm back. Haven't done this in a while, so please bear with me. But I thought today, since I need to make myself a new Wonders wallet, I would turn on the camera and show you how I do it. In case you're wondering, this is the Wonder wallet. This is the so-called cotton version where there's no raw edges. This wallet, sorry for the way it looks, I have been using now for years, since when I came out with the pattern. So you can see it's a small wallet. It opens up and has a coin pouch. Yes, there's some of us that still use coins. Here in Germany, we have the 1 and 2 euro. So I need a coin pouch. Behind the coin pouch is a little secret compartment where you can hide fun money or those receipts you don't want no one to know about. And inside are 6 card slots. This does not mean you can only fit 6 cards in. You can double them up. As you see in some spots, you can get more out. And in the back is the billfold. Yeah, this is my actual wallet with all its receipts and junk. I just grabbed it out of my purse. But this is how it looks. It closes up to a nice, compact little wallet. This one's actually quite chunky because I have so much stuff in it. And on this one, I used what we call laminated cottons or oilcloths, I think, in some countries. It's almost like a fancy tablecloth. Okay, so I thought I'd make a new one for myself. And this time I decided to use, this is the so-called laminated cotton or oilcloth. It's very thin. It's like double-sided. It's wonderful to sew with. And then these two fabrics are just inexpensive tablecloth vinyls that you get cut by the yard or the meter. I just bought 1/4 of a meter of each kind because I wanted to accent it. I wanted to have it so it's clean and thin and to avoid interfacing. So far, these are all the parts. It looks like a lot. It's not. You have your exterior part. You have your lining for the wallet. You have the exterior part for the coin pouch and the lining for the coin pouch. You have the flap exterior and the lining for the coin pouch also. That's this part here. And then we have the card slots. Now these I've included the right and left side, basically the mirrored image, so you would not get confused. In the cotton version or the non-raw version, this is kind of raw, you have the front part of the pocket you see, and then you have these, which are the linings of the accent or the back side of the little card slots. And they will go on like this, wrong sides together, and when you fold this over, it gives you a nice finished edge that also creates an accent. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, following the pattern's instructions, cut everything out. And, oh yeah, I do fuse a little piece of interfacing, even on the vinyl, but be careful so you don't melt it. Like I kind of scorched it here, but I can still use it. Apply a little piece of interfacing to the flaps, as stated in the pattern, so that helps with whether you use a cam snap or a metal snap. Okay, we're going to start with the card slots, and you have your you have 3 pieces each of the front part of the card slot, and you have 3 pieces of the back side or accent piece. You'll need a pen, a little ruler, double stick tape, or a glue stick. That sometimes will work depending on the fabric. I advise taking all keeping them separate because you don't want you to get all mixed up. Take your back sides, and I will place them upside down above the coordinating one. And I recommend, because we don't always cut exact, I would recommend taking this, one of these, and then with a 1/4 inch, using your ruler, draw a little line. And do that on all the pieces, on the lining pieces. This way you're going to get a much more perfect, exact finish. Yes, I started to do some for the video, and then I thought I'd better show you. This is all explained in the pattern. Now I take, you could double stick tape or a glue stick, depends. Now I place a little, I use an 1/8 inch wide double stick tape, and I place it up along, well, if it sticks, up along this edge. Now, remove the paper, which is always, I find, the worst part. There. Now take one of the matching ones and place it up to that line you drew. Technically, it should all line up and you could avoid the lines. But sometimes I find, yeah, you know, with cutting, it's not always perfect. But in this way, I fold it over and it sticks. It should stick to it. And this will happen. Okay. Let's see if I put a little dab of glue first to make sure it sticks. If not, I gotta use my clips. With cotton, you won't have this problem because you will press these down, finger press, and it'll lay flat. Yay, it worked. So now you have this. Now you may want to add a clip or two to hold it together for you. And now I will repeat this process on all 6. Now make sure you put the pieces wrong sides together. Also, this gives you a nice, smooth, slippery surface for your cards to slide in and out without any friction. And then you'll be doing this to all of them. I'm speeding up the video here so you don't have to watch me do this in real time. But as you see, I repeated the process until I had all 6 little slots completed. Now, all 6 are done. Now I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to top stitch along this edge. Once again, I'm going to speed up the video. As you can see, I am just top stitching along the raw edge to make it all look nice and pretty. Voila. The card slots are all top stitched along this edge. Now you're going to have these little pointy things. Just take a rotary cutter and ruler and trim off any of this excess here. See, I'm just being really finicky. You can see here a touch of the lining is seen, so I trim that off. Because even though the pattern pieces fit perfect together, I don't always sew or cut perfectly even. So if there's anything hanging off or extra, I trim it off so that they all look nice and neat. You do this with scissors, but I'm a rotary cutter gal. Guess it comes from patchwork days. Okay, we have that done. Take your exterior piece and draw a line as stated in the pattern. Okay. Now, following the instructions in the pattern, you're going to draw your placement lines, or following the measurements in the pattern. Okay. Now, you're going to draw the next line, a 1/4 inch of that line. And then you're going to draw the next one, 1/2 inch above this second line. It's all stated in the pattern. And again, one more. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to draw a vertical line. This is also stayed in the pattern. This will give me basically my center. And then we're going to want 1/4 inch from this one there. But you only need it halfway. Okay, and now we have those measurements. Super. Now, in case you're wondering, this is weird, this section here, when you're done, it will be folded like this. So that will be the exterior of the wallet when it's folded up. And this is the interior, so to say. So if you had a design here, then I would make sure when you fold it, it's not upside down. Okay, so we have this. Now take your little pockets, and we're going to start on the left-hand side. So I'll take one of these. I have 3 like this. And let's put them here so we don't get mixed up. And 3 like this. Take one of them. And you can use, if you're using real cotton, you can pin it in place or use double stick tape. I am going to do it the old-fashioned way and just hold it on this line, and I'm going to edge stitch along here. And I will then do the same with one of these, and I will place it up to this line here along this edge also, and edge stitch there. Okay. Do not forget to back stitch. Ta-da. You can, if you're not sure, you can put a little piece of 1/8 inch double stick tape to hold it in place for you. You do want to make sure that these edges line up, unlike mine, but that's close enough. Now you're going to take one of these again. Now we're going to put them on the opposite sides, and you're going to place it. Do not stitch the sides. We're going to do those at the end. Now you're going to place one here and one here. And again, you're going to, this time I think I may use the double stick tape because it's getting thicker. Let me place this down on the line. Now, I'm stitching approximately 1/8 of an inch away because we don't have a ton of space for the cards. See, then I line this up so it's over here, up to this edge, and this one here lining up the sides. Voila. And repeat on this edge. Ah, oh no. Stay. Okay. And once again, you want these edges lining up. It's really important to take your time doing this so that things look nice and even and match up. Now again, I'm going to just edge stitch the bottom. And now we repeat. Now this one comes back here, and this one comes back here. Oops, I'm gonna make sure I'm in frame here. And once again. See, looking good. Now I'm going to edge stitch here on all the 4 sides, or on both sides on each set. Make sure you back stitch, and you may want to do a little back stitch where the pockets overlap in case you want to overstuff them. I forgot to mention, I prefer sewing from the bottom towards the top of the pockets. So this way the overlap edges lay nice and flat. I always find it easier to sew downhill than uphill. And don't forget to backstitch over where they crisscross, where it's a little thicker. Okay, turn my threads. Pockets are done and looking great. Now take this piece and flip it wrong side up. The pockets are down here. You may want to make a mark so you know this is the top edge and this is the bottom edge. I know it sounds funny, but it'll make sense later. Now take your lining piece and lay it centered on the exterior piece that you just did. It might be easier. I like to draw lines, but so I will draw 1/4 inch from each end. And since I can't fuse this, I'm just going to put, oops, oh, so much for a little glue. The joys of glue sticks. I'm going to just put a little bit glue stick so that my lining piece will stay in place. I could probably add fusible web to this and fuse it, but this is really inexpensive vinyl fabric, and it'll probably end up shrinking or melting on me. So we got this. As you see, wallet pieces are here, down here. So this is still your top piece. The top piece, okay, line this up so everything's nice and even. I'm just going to clip this in place. Got glue now all over my fingers. Okay. Glue this. Now either with glue or if you can press it, or in my case, I'm going to put a piece of double stip tape. You see, I always keep the tape away from I put it where the closest to the line. So, because I'll be stitching close to the raw edge and I don't want to sew through this gooey tape, because it just gunks up my needle and then I have to clean it. Okay, now on the bottom edge, you're going to take this and you're going to fold it up. And voila. There. And we're going to edge stitch right along here. From end to end. Now this edge, I also add double stick tape to, but we are not going to top stitch this edge. We later insert the flap and stuff, so we want a nice finish edge. Okay, but we are not going to, oops, top stitch. I'm going to fold this over and I'm going to clip it and hold it in place. So it'll look like this. So you know you haven't done it wrong if this folds, and it will look like this. Lovely. We're going to stop here and then we'll move on to the making the coin pocket and the flap. Okay, now we just have to make the flap and the coin pocket. Let's go with the easy one first, the flap. Okay, so of course, right sides together, we're going to pin and clip them, or pin or clip the outer edges, and then you're just going to sew around the curved edge, not the straight edge, 1/4 inch. Okay, now check and make sure, contrasting thread would have been nice, that you get a nice curve. I find most times I have to sew the curve a second time because there's always a spot that's wonky. Okay, let's fix this one up. Now, trim your curves. I'm going to use my pinking shears. These are not necessary, but since I have them, I figure they got to be used every once in a while. But you can just clip little notches out. Okay, now we turn it right side out, which is obvious. Yeah, with this plastic tablecloth, it's a little stiffer to turn, but it's not impossible. Now, what I like to use, I have this little screwdriver that's for my machine, and I like to run it along the edges here to make sure it's all nice and smooth. Okay, if there's any wonky spots, then you gotta sew it again. but I think this looks okay. This is going to be my exterior side, and this is going to be my lining side. Now, normally, you would go to the iron and press this lovely. But since, this is tablecloth vinyl on the other side, I'm not going to take that risk. So I'm doing the old finger pressing. And now, when I'm satisfied how it looks, any pokey things, if there's any edges that are like sticking out on you, I just use my owl or screwdriver and poke them back in. It's a little cheating, but hey, it works. There we go. Now, edge stitch, top stitch, whatever term you prefer. Okay. Done. Put it aside. Now we're onto the coin pocket. It's basically the same, but just a little bigger. Now we have our lining that we put a bigger piece because this is going to get 2 cam snaps. And then we have the lining and the exterior. On the exterior, you're going to do something scary. You're going to draw about a 2-inch mark in the middle, and now we're going to cut it. This will be our turning opening. With the cotton version, we have fusible web on one side. So after we've sewn it and turned it and you press it, it will fuse this slit closed. And since this is underneath, you're not going to see it. But since we're using vinyl, we can apply a bit of glue in there so that it, so you don't catch on it. Okay, I'm going to give you a tip. When I'm sewing things with corners or angles, and I'm never sure where to stop and pivot, what I do is I take my little ruler, and whatever the seam allowance is, I draw just at that intersection little marks. They're like little guide marks. In this case, it's 1/4 inch. And then when I'm sewing, I know when I come to this spot, I turn my needle and pivot. Here we have this funny angle. And I do the same. If you're really good at it, you don't have to do this. This is just something I like to do when I'm being fussy, or if I'm making something that I want the corners and everything to turn out really spot on, perfect. I will give myself little pivot marks. Okay. And da-da. Okay. You don't really need it here, but it is. Okay. So this is what we have. Okay, I started to sew this, and I realized you probably cannot see anything I am doing on the in the video. So I've switched out my thread, and I'm going to re-stitch this so you can see better what I did. Okay, put some clips in, so it looks like. Now we're going to sew along this edge, around the curve, and off this edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance as stated in the pattern. And I'm using those lovely little pivot points. There, that's better. Now you can see. So I've sewn oops, here. Now, to get perfect, lovely, sharp corners in pouches or anything that has a 90-degree angle, I don't sew now like this and then trim off that corner. Okay, sometimes I do, but I try not to, because then when I turn it, I get that fat stuff corner look, and I don't like that. So to get a nice, smooth, flat corner, what I do is before I start sewing this side seam, we're going to just sew this little section next. I fold over this top edge. Oops, let's see. I fold over this top edge right on the stitching line. Perfectly on the stitch line, that's important. Then I use my finger and I crease it. And now I will sew down to this edge. Now you see, this is stitched down. Now we're going to repeat this exact same process. The seam that you start at, or the edge you started, is the one that gets folded over. Fold over that right perfectly on the stitching line. I finger press it, and I'm going to sew, oops, sew here to here, off the edge. Oops. Okay. Now you see, it's looking really strange, and you're thinking, okay, this is weird, but gotta trust the process. And I continue. I'm going to sew here down to this edge, folding over and stitching. This is a really old sewer's trick, tailor's trick. I was not clever enough to invent this. Okay, now we do the same thing. Fold, crease, sew. And now I'm going to be going neat off this edge. And then I will do the last one. And now what I like to do, since we did this and we went across, I like to go back to the very first one, because we first started sewing straight because we had no seam to fold on. But I take this last one and I fold it over on the seam, on the stitching line, and I just stitch down that tiny bit. Okay, and this is what it looks like. See those? It looks really wacky, but trust me, it's going to be perfect. Now I'm going to have to cut where the corners are to remove some of the thickness. Trim as close to the stitching line as you dare to go. Usually a couple threads away is perfect. Now, let's see. Now we're going to trim. Trim or put notches in the curved, if you're making the curved flap. If you're doing the, there's two other flaps, a square one, I believe, and edge, I don't even know what you would call that shaped. Cut off corners. Okay. Okay, here we go. Now, we're going to turn it through this hole. If you use vinyl like I did, gently. Now when I go to turn these edges, the straight edges, where I had folded over, I fold the other half over. So it's like this. Can you see that? I folded this over. I have my fingers. Wait a minute, gotta get them back in because I gotta turn. Yeah, this is fidgety, and also this being tablecloth vinyl likes to stick to each other. With cotton, you won't have as much of a problem. And then I fold this over, and I hold it with my thumb and finger, and then I turn. And I repeat the process. Do not try to stuff the whole thing at once. Always just turn little sections. Yep, it's looking like a hot mess, but hang in there. Next section, get my finger in there. Fold down that edge, hold it, and turn. And continue. We're almost there. Okay. Yep, that looks awful. Okay, now we're going to smooth it all out using my screwdriver or pokey tool or my finger, whatever your favorite method is. I like to use a flat screwdriver because then I have less chances of poking right through the corner. And you see, when I use a screwdriver and I've had folded over those corners, now they are nice and, oops, flat and square. Now let's push the next one out. Okay. And there's no bulk. Do you see that? It's not that big fat, I don't know if you can see that, big fat sausage. Oops. Like you get with a lot of, where's my hole? I keep losing my hole. And now I'll smooth along and keep flattening those edges. Take your time with this because you want it to look nice. Try to roll out so it's got a nice curved edge. Once again, if I got those little pokies, I will use my awl and push them in. Should have shortened my stitch length. I always seem to sew with a 3.5, but it's not always optimal. Okay. Okay, we've got this. Voila. Now, this is my exterior, or it will be the exterior. This will be the lining of my pouch. Now, okay, we want to top stitch around the curved edge and the straight edges on the sides of the pouch. So that's what I'm going to do now. My goodness, I have forgotten how to talk. Silly me, I stitched along here, wasn't necessary. I just need that, but now I'll do the straight edges only. Okay. Voila. The reason oops. The reason I did not top stitch all the way around, which you can do, is because we're going to be folding this and stitching along here. And if there's a previous stitch line, I wouldn't be able to, I may not be able to sew directly on top of it, and then it looks kind of sloppy. Now fold in the two little arms. They should meet in the middle. And now fold up the bottom edge flat and fold down the flap. Voila. Now you're going to give this a good press to create the crease lines. Now gently open it up, and when you see that wherever the crease lines are, you're going to want to draw a line that will be your stitching line, approximately, can we even see that on this? 1/8 of an inch away from the crease line. We do not want to sew on the crease line, or the fold line, whatever you wish to call it, because we need to get in for the corners. You'll see in a second. So I've drawn my 3 lines. Now on back side, forgot to flip it over. And you want to add double stick tape on all 3 sides. When you pressed your pouch, the opening here, due to the fusible web, it sealed it closed. If you use vinyl like I did, use a little fabric tack and put it in there, and then it'll be closed so that your hidden objects won't catch on that opening. So I have my double stick tape. I'm going to retrieve my wallet, and while it's folded in half, too much, like so, just so I can get a good placement. I'm going to flip it over, and the pouch is going to go here. I'm going to remove the paper from the double stick tape. My God. Okay, now remember there was the 2 lines. The one that's a 1/4 inch from the middle, you're going to place it up to that line, centering it from top to bottom. That's why I like to have it folded so I can see where my center is. And press down. Ta-da. Open it up. Okay. If you don't like using double stick tape, you can pin it in place. Now remember to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the fold line, or on your chalk, on your drawn lines. Looks pretty good. Now comes the trickiest part. We gotta sew up the side. So you're going to take this side and the bottom piece, and we're gonna wanna match up the top edges together. Fold the wallet like crazy in half, which it will do. And we're gonna clip or pin it together. And now you're going to sew right along this close to the edge, 1/8 of an inch. And this is why we didn't sew on the fold line, because we need that little space to be able to sew right across and backstitch. Do not worry if you couldn't have sewn right to the edge of it. It's not a deal breaker, but it's important you backstitch up here. So we got the one side sewn. Can I say that? Now we're going to repeat on the other. Clip these together. Fold this all out of your way. That's the benefit of this. And clip and sew. Now it starts to get a little tougher because we have sewn some seams. But squish it all underneath there. So just squish it all out of your way. Normally I would bury my threads, but due to video time, so now we have this. Okay, and now onto the flap. You could start with the flaps, the edges, that's a personal preference. I clip, and now I'm just going to, where this ends, this side edge ends, that's where I'm going to backstitch it. And now it's getting trickier to fold everything out of the way, but you can do it. Just crush it. And the last side. Almost there. And one last major crush. On the flap, it's good if you can sew on your previous top stitching line. Okay. We did it. This is what it looks like. A little box. Treasure chest. Now, trim all your threads. And that was the worst part. And it wasn't so bad, was it? Well, depends on your material, I guess. Now, to create the pocket, the actual pouch, you're going to have to fold in the sides and press down this, and voila. Give it a good press with the iron. Not in my case. Oh, I've got threads here I need to trim. Okay. And that's that. You can clip it to hold it for a bit. Voila. It's coming along. Okay, looking good. Now we're at this point. You're going to take your flap piece, and what is my right side, I'm going to place down if I have a right side. Now you're going to, before you make it, sew it on, with this folded and this folded, make sure your flap is the same width as the folded wallet. Mine is spot on. Sometimes due to sewing, we may be wider or narrower, but it looks good. So now I'm going to open up this little part that the top edge that I had you not top stitch. We just had it temporarily taped down. So that's going to be our edge. That's going to be the bottom. I'm going to clip here the straight edge. I'm going to open this little spot, and I'm going to stitch, baste it on just under 1/4 inch. Together, you're going to fold the exteriors together, but you're not going to fold these two top edges even. Remember, we want this side with the cards just 3/16 a tick under it, and we're going to clip that in place. And the same on this side. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. Now we're going to sew the both short edges. Okay. Now we're going to turn the wallet right side out. Where's my little screwdriver? Here we are. Push out my corners with my screwdriver. Let's see this one. This one helps if you just tug on the flap and pulls it lovely out. Okay, we're looking awesome. Almost done. Now, remember this little piece? Now we're going to fold this edge in, and we're going to, if your double stick tape still works, which in my case it doesn't, but I think I'm just going to clip it down. And this cover, and then these, where the ends are, you're going to, the seam allowance to fold it flat. Okay, first trim threads. And fold this over. I angle this in just slightly in, so it's not perfectly straight, just slight. And then I fold this over, and that's going to finish off that corner. And that's where we're going to, same with here. Then you'll be top stitching right across. And this is the reason we did not want to top stitch beforehand. We want to be able to give this a nice, neat finish. Now, you can top stitch from in here or here. Try to match up the top stitching with the flap top stitching and go right across. You do not have tons of room here. I recommend using an 1/8" foot. If your machine doesn't have one, you will have a zipper foot. So I would use the zipper foot. And wait a minute, let me show you. I stole the zipper foot from my other machine to show you. The best way is yours. When you have your zipper foot on, it will automatically stitch in the middle hole. Now move your needle over so that it's approximately here. Just 1/8 of an inch in from the flat edge. And then this way, and I use my zipper foot and I'm sewing along, I can have the edge of the zipper foot up against the edge of the pocket, and it'll stitch along here. This way I don't have to worry about going all over all this bulk. Oops, over all this bulk and messing up. Can you see that, what I'm meaning? Yeah, see, if the edge of the foot sews there and you stitch just inside of there, that'll give you your perfect top stitching. Before we top stitch, you may want to move the pocket out of, pin it or clip it out of your way so that you don't catch it. I'm old school. I pull my bobbin thread always to the top when I'm starting on nice areas like this, because I do not want a bird's nest underneath. Okay. You have the option to top stitch here and top stitch here, encasing the seam allowances, these raw edges. So I'm going to do that. Okay, the edges are sides are top stitch. Some people like to top stitch along this bottom folded edge. I don't think it needs because we have a nice edge in there. So your wallet is basically done. Now we just have to add the cam snaps. So fold it in half, do this, and we're going to clip this so it stays nicely together. Okay, let's see, we're gonna need a cam snap or metal snaps. This part is your choice. For this one, I'm going to use cam snap because it's easier. Oh, wait a minute. First, what I gotta do is I'm going to fold my the flap in half so that I know where the middle is. And then approximately, what would I say, half an inch? Yeah, approximately half an inch from there, I will draw a little mark. And that is the center of my flap. So what I'm going to do is place the pointy part of my cam snap first to see where I would like it. And I say about that far from the edge. So yep, that's where my little dot was. So that is exactly 3/8 inch from the edge. Now with a pokey tool, poke a hole, and it'll look like that. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, that was easy enough. Now we're going to take, oh, do we want the males on top or the females? Let's say on this side we have the male part. So we take the male part of the cam snap and then we use this horrible torture tool and you press down really hard. And most times you have to press a couple times. The secret is to make sure the inside is squished down. Okay, so there we go. Now back to this. We fold it up. So it sits nicely. And we're going to take this cam snap. Okay, here's might not show up so good. I like to, where's my chalk thing? Place some chalk on it, and then I press down, and that tells me exactly where it's supposed to where exactly I press the next cam snap. But unfortunately, with this color, the white chalk doesn't show up. So I'm just going to lift this up a little bit. Can you see that? And then that's where my second one is going to go. Okay. Move that. And where I made my little mark, I'm going to make a hole. And now for the female part of the cam snap, you have to put the cap on the inside. And then you find the little female and you put her on the outside. Up on top. Okay, and squish it good. Oh, with all your might. Okay, okay, you know it worked when it makes that snap sound. I think it needs another press here because it had most people don't press enough, and I always find you have to press them at least twice. And let's see. Yeah. Voila. Now with that one closed, we just have the last one to do. We can still clip it so it stays nice and flat. My pouches, the bottom pouch is there. Now we take a outer one and we decide where to place it. Again, close to the edge. And we want it even with this one, with the previous one. So I'm going to poke it there, poke my hole, put it in. Yes, super. Now again, now here on this side, we're once again going to need a male. Put that in. Crunch. Oh. Couple times. Yeah, it's tough. And then, with this all being nice and snug and flat, once again, I would put chalk on here so I could press it down and leave a mark. Oh, but wait a minute. If I press hard enough, you can see, can you see? It made a little indentation. So I will gently poke a hole right in the middle. Now, don't poke through the whole wallet, just through the side of this pouch. Now take your round cap, put it from the back side, and take the little female and crush her in. And voila. Make sure, I always test. Oh, perfect snaps. Hear that? Nice and, that one's a little tougher, but this one's lovely. And there you go. There's your Wonder Wallet. Isn't that awesome? Look how thin it is. This is even for a guy, a nice thin wallet, until he stuffs it, of course. Now here you have your awesome coin pouch. You have a hidden back pocket. You have room for all your credit cards and for any money you may still have. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed making the Wonder Wallet, and some of this tutorial made some sense. And I guess we'll see us in the next tutorial. Thanks for sewing with me.